Hello, and welcome to Dark Hearts with Stacy Lee. Thanks for joining me today. There are two recent stories that I've been watching, both coming out of New Zealand. Both of these stories are incredibly disturbing, so much so that I've wondered if I should cover them, but you know what my goal is here. To study the monsters that commit terrible crimes and to ensure that the victims are never forgotten. The topic of mental health is intertwined with all stories of murder, but especially in our two stories today. We're talking about the horrific murder and dismemberment of a beautiful young woman and a family annihilation, not by a father, like we usually see, but by a mother. Today we are talking about True Crime New Zealand. I'm your host, Stacy Lee. Let's begin. Carmen Thomas was a vibrant woman in her early 30s, originally from Durban, South Africa. She was born in the South African town of Benoni in 1977. Carmen lost her father when she was only 10 years old, and this death affected her greatly. But in spite of that loss, Carmen was known to be fun, impulsive, loud, fearless, and she had a talent for making friends. She finished her marketing degree and then moved to London. It was in London that Carmen met Bradford James Joseph Callaghan, who was born in 1978. The two began a relationship, and Carmen got pregnant in 2004. Her relationship with Brad was troubled, and Carmen knew she needed to end it, so she did. In 2005, Carmen gave birth to a baby boy who she named Jack. Carmen then relocated to New Zealand, seeking better opportunities and a fresh start. Brad had also moved to New Zealand, and Carmen felt it was important for Jack to have both his father and his mother in his life. Settling in Auckland, Carmen worked diligently to provide for her young son, Jack. Friends and family describe her as a devoted mother with an infectious zest for life. Brad and Carmen's relationship lasted 8 years, but it had always been a little bit strained. It became more strained, and people who know Brad say he became angry and distant. Brad worked as a structural engineer, and he was 33 years old at the time of the events we're discussing today. The couple had lived in London for a time, and that is where the relationship came to an end. They stayed in contact because of the son they shared together, but the romance was most definitely over. Brad began living with his new girlfriend, Tanith Butler, who was pregnant with Brad's child. Carmen told little Jack about the baby, and Jack was excited to have a new brother or sister on the way. Carmen then began working as an escort based out of a strip club. Her friends were concerned, but Carmen said the money was good and she wanted to give Jack the best life possible. On June 29th, 2010, Carmen and Brad had a serious argument, during which Carmen supposedly told Brad that he was not the father of her son. Now, Carmen had a somewhat strained relationship with her mother, but the two of them were working on rebuilding that, and they wanted their family to be closer. We don't know what led to the argument with Brad, but it was apparently not uncommon for Carmen and Brad to have serious disagreements. This argument would be their last. On June 29th, 2010, while at Carmen's house, the house she shared with her son Jack, Brad completely lost control of himself, and he did the unthinkable. He picked up a baseball bat and began hitting Carmen on the head with it. He fractured her cheeks and her skull as he beat her. A neighbor reported hearing screams and then a whimper, after which she heard Brad Callaghan shush Carmen. Brad then delivered a devastating blow to the back of Carmen's head, killing her. The last confirmed sighting of Carmen was on June 27, 2010, at the Green Lane Countdown supermarket. She was there around 7:10 in the evening. Following this, she vanished without a trace. Her bank accounts remained untouched after this date, raising immediate concerns about her well-being. Now, Jack had been scheduled to be with Brad during his summer break, and so Carmen's disappearance went unnoticed for about 2 weeks. On July 13th, 2010, after Carmen failed to collect her son, as per the shared custody agreement, she was officially reported missing. This uncharacteristic behavior alarmed Carmen's close circle and prompted a police investigation. Texts and Facebook posts began flying around the area. Carmen's friends took to social media back in those early days of Facebook, posting, "Carmen, where are you?" They were trying to bring awareness to the fact that their friend was missing. Very quickly, the Facebook group, which was called Carmen Thomas, grew to thousands of members who were checking in every day to see if Carmen had been found. On August 15th, police found Carmen's car. It had been dumped in Hamilton, and there was also blood in the car. Tests were taken of the blood, and it was confirmed to be human. By mid-August, the police designated Carmen Thomas's case as a homicide investigation, and the disappearance was all over the news. Police confiscated CCTV footage, and they went through Carmen's house from top to bottom. There were rumors about Carmen's murder that only intensified when people found out that she had been involved in sex work. As we well know, it is common for people that are involved in sex work to be written off. People assume they're living a high-risk lifestyle, they assume they're on drugs, and a lot of the times that's not the case. As authorities delved into Carmen's disappearance, several puzzling events came to light. On July 3rd, 2010, a text message was sent from Carmen's phone to her employer at a men's club in Pakuranga, I hope I'm saying that right, indicating that she was unwell. This message was later suspected to have been sent by someone else in order to mislead the investigation. Then, on July 7th, 2010, police find footage that verifies Carmen's car, a gray Nissan, was mysteriously driven from Auckland to Hamilton, where, like I said, they found it dumped with blood in it. This further deepened the mystery as to where Carmen was. Now, Brad Callaghan was, of course, a suspect. Being an ex-boyfriend, someone she shared a child with, that's going to happen. Police found out that Brad had a pregnant girlfriend and that his relationship with Carmen was, at the time especially, very strained. Initially, Brad appeared cooperative, expressing concern over Carmen's disappearance. He even had quite a bit of support on the Facebook group initially. However, inconsistencies in Brad's statements and suspicious activities soon drew police attention. As the investigation continued, evidence led police to what was basically a temporary grave. These foreign cases are much more difficult for me to cover because different countries have different laws about which information can be released to the press. So sometimes I don't find all the details, but here is what we know. Investigators found blood spatter on Carmen Thomas's washing machine. The police became convinced that the blood spatter was from the blows that killed Carmen. The spatter told police that she had been hit very, very hard. It was high-velocity spatter. At some point in the investigation, police noticed that the outdoor garbage can, the one that gets picked up by the city, was missing from Carmen's house. After they found the car, they found that missing garbage can. Where was it? At Brad Callaghan's house. He had attempted to gouge the serial number off the trash can so it couldn't be tied to Carmen's house. They're tracked by serial numbers there. Hell, here in Utah, they just spray paint your house number on the garbage can. But this was not very smart of Brad. Forensic testing was done on the garbage can, and there was biological material found inside. Investigators then determined that that biological material came from Carmen Thomas, and they believe that the trash can was used to transport Carmen's body from her house to Brad's house. Brad Callaghan had been keeping a very big secret. He had an explosive temper, and there were more than one instance of when he lost control of it. In the aftermath of the murder, Brad meticulously planned to dispose of Carmen's body to evade detection. Utilizing his knowledge as a structural engineer, Brad dismembered Carmen's body in her own apartment. This gruesome act was aimed at making the remains easier to conceal and to transport. He placed the dismembered body parts into plastic containers, which he then filled with concrete. This method was intended to mask any odors and make detection by authorities more challenging. After the cement dried, Brad transported the concrete-filled containers to the Waiatakere Ranges, which is a dense forested area west of Auckland. He buried the chunks of concrete with body parts encased in them in secluded spots, believing that the remote location would keep his crime hidden indefinitely. I never can wrap my head around what these guys are thinking. He's obviously going going to be a suspect. Even if they don't find the body, they can still bring charges. And do they ever consider what their life is going to be like when they're under suspicion constantly? Despite his efforts to cover his tracks, Brad could not escape the scrutiny of a determined police force. On September 21st, 2010, after gathering substantial evidence, including surveillance footage and forensic data, police arrested Brad Callaghan at his residence. This arrest marked a turning point in the investigation, bringing hope to Carmen's grieving family and friends. The police then stripped Carmen's entire apartment bare, taking it right down to the studs. They found out that Brad had moved furniture to cover scratches and dents in the walls. He'd also tried to clean up evidence of blood, but he hadn't done a very good job. Brad was taken into police custody. Faced with mounting evidence, Brad eventually confessed to the murder. He provided detailed accounts of the crime, including the dismemberment and disposal of Carmen's body. His confession led authorities to the exact location in the Waiatakere Ranges where he had buried the remains. Brad Callaghan was charged with murder and attempting to pervert the course of justice. During the trial, the prosecution presented a compelling case. Evidence suggested that Brad had planned the murder, driven by his animosity towards Carmen and the desire to eliminate her from his life. The prosecutor went in really hard on the premeditation aspect because it raises the amount of time that you're going to spend in prison. Then the prosecution began talking about the post-murder behavior. Brad engaged in some very telling actions, including sending misleading messages from Carmen's phone and relocating her car. Those were deliberate attempts to mislead both the public and law enforcement. In March of 2012, Brad Callaghan was sentenced to life imprisonment with a minimum non-parole period of 13 years and 8 months. Again, I know this is not the U.S., but 13 years minimum for a brutal murder and dismemberment is wild to me. The New Zealand press said that this sentence aimed to reflect the severity of his actions and provide a measure of justice for Carmen and her loved ones. How is 13 years for taking someone's life going to provide justice? Now, all of these events took place years ago, but the case has been back in the news. Brad came up for parole the first time in 2024. Having served the minimum required time, Brad became eligible for parole in 2024. His first parole hearing was a focal point for both the media and the public, reigniting discussions about the case and the broader implications of parole for violent offenders, especially domestic violent offenders. Brad appeared before the parole board in a gray prison-issued tracksuit. He presented a clean-shaven and tidy appearance. His demeanor was described as subdued, reflecting the gravity of the proceedings. At the hearing, Brad expressed deep remorse for his actions. He stated, "I'm so terribly sorry for what I've done." He acknowledged the irreversible pain he caused to Carmen's family and to his own. The parole board evaluated Brad's behavior. During incarceration, he had participated in some rehabilitation programs and had undergone psychological assessments. While he had engaged in various programs aimed at addressing violent tendencies, concerns remained about his readiness to reintegrate into society. Oh, do you think? He murdered the mother of his child and chopped her body up into pieces. Am I having a stroke? After careful deliberation, the parole board denied Brad's request for release. The board prioritized the safety of the community, determining that Brad still posed a potential risk. You think? The board concluded that Brad needed further engagement in rehabilitative efforts, that programs were necessary to address the underlying issues that led to the crime. The board scheduled a subsequent review, allowing Brad the opportunity to demonstrate continued progress in his rehabilitation journey. The murder of Carmen Thomas and the subsequent legal proceedings have had profound effects on multiple fronts. Carmen's loved ones continue to grapple with the emotional aftermath of her loss. The parole hearing in particular resurfaced a lot of painful memories, which underscored the impact of what they had been through. The case also sparked discussions about domestic violence in New Zealand, the effectiveness of the justice system, and the complexities surrounding parole decisions for serious offenders. Again, I have no voice in this as I am not a New Zealander, but if Brad did that here, he would never get out of prison. I want to send a lot of love from the Dark Hearts community to the family of Carmen Thomas, to anyone who loved her, and especially to her son Jack. We are sorry for your loss, and we hope that that this vicious killer is not released without serving his full sentence. Our next story is truly horrifying. It involves a mother, a woman who was a respected medical professional who was married to an orthopedic surgeon. This is Lauren Ann Dickason. She, like Carmen, is originally from South Africa. This is Lauren's husband, Graham Dickason, who is a skilled orthopedic surgeon. Lauren suffered from depression and anxiety and had since she was a teenager. She studied at the University of Cape Town and became a doctor. But after having her first child, realized that she had severe postpartum depression. Lauren and Graham married in 2006, and they had fertility struggles before Lauren got pregnant. Lauren had 17 rounds of IVF. 17. This must be covered by insurance in these countries because here in America, that's like 10 to 20 grand a round. Lauren and Graham were thrilled when Lauren got pregnant in 2013, but the fetus did not survive and was lost at only 18 weeks. Lauren threw herself into her work and became a surgical assistant to her husband. The Dickasons kept trying, and finally their dreams came true. The couple were blessed with 3 beautiful daughters. Leanne was born in 2014. She was a bright and affectionate child. She often took on the role of the protective older sister, guiding her younger siblings with care. And then there were 2 younger girls, Maya and Carla, who were twins. They were born in November of 2018. The children's lives were filled with typical childhood activities, from attending school to playing in their neighborhood. Friends and family recall them as joyful and full of potential, but Lauren was not doing well. Lauren had been diagnosed back in 2015 with a major depression disorder. Her anxiety was also really bad, apparently. Even after the birth of her 3 daughters, Lauren was having a difficult time getting over the loss of her first baby. Laura had insomnia, she had panic attacks, and she had intrusive thoughts. One of the twins, Carla, was born with a cleft palate, and Lauren had a lot of anxiety about her condition. Lauren sought the help of a psychiatrist in May of 2019, and she reported to that doctor that she was having homicidal thoughts towards her children. Lauren told the doctor that she had slapped one of the twins and felt that her children were never enough. So what I would like to know is, why weren't these children removed and placed in protective care? This is obviously a woman who needed help and should not have been responsible for these babies. Sadly, there was no intervention. Seeking better opportunities and a safer environment, the Dickason family made the significant decision to relocate from South Africa to New Zealand. This move was intended to provide a fresh start and a brighter future for their daughters. Lauren felt that the move would improve her mental health, and she was looking forward to the change. That's what Lauren told people in her life. But Lauren was lying. In secret, Lauren was searching online for methods to drug her children, to overdose them, to asphyxiate them. She wanted them gone, and she was lying to everyone about being excited for the move. In early September 2021, the family settled in Timaru, a picturesque town known for its serene landscapes and tight-knit community. The family moved into a house provided by the hospital where Graham was set to begin his medical practice. Lauren was unhappy with the house. She wrote to a friend and told her that the house was, quote, small, disgusting, and creepy. Lauren told her friends that she was worried her children would be bullied because they were from South Africa, and Lauren texted people saying she deeply regretted going to New Zealand. The move was not a fresh start. It was not something that helped. In fact, it made everything worse. Just weeks after the move, tragedy struck. On the evening of September 16th, 2021, Lauren picked up Carla and Maya, who had attended their first day of preschool. Leanne had been to her second day at Timaru Christian School. With all 3 girls in the car, Carla threw a tantrum. This angered Lauren, but she took the girls to the local botanical gardens to walk around. During that visit, Lauren would later allege that a group of girls warned her that there were boys in the park photographing her children. This sounds like a paranoid delusion to me. Am I the only one who has been seeing this a lot on social media lately? There are these women who They're making it tougher for others to believe that there are predators out there. They see a guy in Target, they see a guy in the grocery store, they scream and yell that he's following them, but you never see the guy, you never see the police get involved. To me, it's giving attention seeker. If that really happened in the store, I want to see the cops. I want to see the guy's face. And it frustrates me because I feel like those incidents make it less likely that people are going to believe other women when it really does happen, which it does. It sounds to me like Lauren was kind of in a headspace of paranoia and maybe a little bit of a break with reality. Lauren began to spiral into these thoughts of New Zealand being even more dangerous than South Africa, and she had even more intrusive thoughts about her children. This woman was not well, but she knew she was not well, and she did not seek treatment. She did not tell her psychiatrist all that she was thinking. Evening fell after the day at the botanical gardens, and Lauren and the girls returned home. While Graham attended a work-related dinner, Lauren was getting dinner ready and helping the girls get dressed for bed. Lauren would later say that the girls were, quote, being wild again, jumping on couches, not listening to what I'm trying to tell them. So they were being kids. They were being kids. Lauren would also later say that she was really stressed about an immigration request for medical records about Carla's cleft palate treatment and her own mental health. Lauren said when it came time to make the girls' school lunches, it was all too much. Upon Graham's return to the house after dinner, he discovered a scene that would forever alter the course of their lives. I'm going to kind of glaze over this next part for obvious reasons. Lauren had taken the lives of their 3 daughters. The details of this act are very disturbing. It involves methods that reflect a deeply troubled state of mind. Zip ties and a pillow were involved. Lauren then claims that she tried to take herself out. Graham came home to the scene and found Laura semi-conscious and crying. For some reason, he called his neighbors, Karen and Brad Callaghan, who then called the police. Cops arrived at the home to discover the horrible scene. The community of Timaru, along with people worldwide, grappled with the shock and sorrow of this unimaginable tragedy. In the immediate aftermath, Lauren Dickason was taken to the hospital where she was received in stable condition. She was later arrested and charged with the murder of her 3 children. The legal process that ensued sought to uncover the motivations and the mental state leading up to the event. On September 17th, 2021, Lauren admitted in a police interview that she had done away with her 3 children. The next day, she was placed in a psychiatric ward. The trial of Lauren Dickason commenced in July of 2023 at the High Court in Christchurch. Central to the proceedings was the exploration of Lauren's mental health. The defense argued that Lauren was experiencing severe mental distress exacerbated by the pressures of relocation, motherhood, and underlying psychological conditions. Prosecutors, however, contended that despite any mental health challenges, Lauren's actions were deliberate and constituted murder under the law.
The father of the 3 girls killed by their mother in Timaru maintains Lauren Dickason was nurturing towards the children. He was giving evidence for a second day and was questioned by the defence about texts he and his wife exchanged before the tragedy. Lisa Davies has been in court.
The little girl's grandparents arriving at court, here from South Africa to support their daughter as she's tried for murder. Today they saw her bereft husband cross-examined.
I want to start by acknowledging your loss, Mr. Dickason, and how difficult evidence has been for you.
We can't film his evidence, but via video link from Pretoria, Graham Dickason thanked her.
It is not the defence case that you are to blame in any respect for what happened.
He was questioned about saying Lauren wasn't a nurturing mother in his lengthy police interview that was recorded the day after she'd killed their 3 daughters, Liane, Maya and Carla.
Was that something that you said on the night, in the worst of circumstances, that perhaps isn't correct?
Definitely yes. That was a very confusing moment in my life.
Lauren was a nurturing mother to your daughters, wasn't she?
Definitely.
There's no question in your mind that she absolutely loved those girls?
No question in my mind at all.
The defence read out text messages he'd sent his wife.
You are a very special mummy, best of the best, in a class of your own.
Seemingly darker ones also shared.
It seems so fun to spend time with your daughter. Now I'm glad I stopped you from killing her last night. That's an example of a joke, isn't it?
Yes, it was definitely not literal.
But in 2019, when the twins were 5 months old,
Lauren told you that she felt like she could do something to the babies. That must have been something of a shock to you.
Of course, yes. At least not something you expect to hear.
he told police this year he now puts what she said down to postpartum depression.
You didn't think the girls were at risk?
No, I didn't think they were at risk. The reason for that would be that Lauren came to me with these feelings of anxiety.
But the comments she made became reality when she reached New Zealand. The jury must decide if this is a case of triple murder, infanticide, or if this mother was insane at the time.
Kia ora, Lisa. What else was discussed during the father's cross-examination?
Simon, defence lawyer Anne Tui spent a lot of time asking Graham Dickason about his wife's declining mental health in their last weeks in South Africa and when they reached New Zealand. Lauren Dickason herself sent texts saying she felt that if she didn't get it together, her husband would take her to the psychiatric hospital in Pretoria. Now he's finished being cross-examined, Justice Cameron Mander thanked Graham Dickason for spending 2 entire nights from his home in Pretoria giving such critical evidence. Tomorrow we will hear from the friend Graham Dickason called when he got home that night to find his young children dead.
After a month-long trial, the jury reached a verdict in August of 2023. Lauren Dickason was found guilty on 3 counts of murder. The decision was met with a mixture of relief and sorrow as the community and observers worldwide grappled with what this mother had done. In June of 2024, Lauren was sentenced to life imprisonment with a minimum non-parole period of 18 years. The sentencing judge acknowledged the profound tragedy of the case, noting the irreversible loss of the 3 young lives and the enduring impact on all who knew them. The Dickason case has ignited discussions about mental health, particularly concerning postpartum depression and the challenges faced by parents during significant life transitions. It underscores the critical need for accessible mental health support and the importance of community awareness in identifying and addressing psychological distress. Now, Lauren's husband was making a good living. She had access to a psychiatrist. But once she got to New Zealand, it does not seem that she continued treatment. In this particular case, I don't know that there's anything that could have been done because the family had just moved. It was not long after the move that this occurred. The kids had just gone to their first days of school. So yes, I do feel that Lauren has culpability for not continuing her mental health treatment. With her being a doctor and her husband being a doctor, you would think that they would be more aware of what was happening. And I think this is a really good example of how having that extra training doesn't always mean you're going to spot the red flags. The story of the Dickason family is a poignant and sad reminder of the fragility of our mental health at times and the profound impact that compromised mental health can have on a family. I hope as we reflect on this tragedy, we remember that it is important to foster environments where mental well-being is prioritized and support systems are readily available to prevent such devastating events in the future. We are not doing very well at that here in America. We've got to do better, my friends. These babies deserve so much better. Thank you for joining me today on Dark Hearts with Stacy Lee. I really appreciate you guys spending a little bit of your day with me. Would you hit the like button and subscribe to the channel if you want to see more from me? It really does help. And I want to give a special thank you to my patrons. I'm kind of in the process of combining my podcasts right now. If you haven't listened to the podcast, would you? And maybe leave me a review. It's called Dark Hearts with Stacy Lee. It's on Apple, Spotify, and Amazon. I post brand new episodes every Monday and every Wednesday, and you will hear some stories there that you will not hear on YouTube. You know, we've still got our fundraiser going. Watch this short video on my channel and it will tell you everything our community is doing to raise money to donate to police departments. We are trying to help solve some cold crimes. $5 from a lot of people goes a long way. Are you okay? It's a lot right now. It's important to take some time for yourself. Don't get down in the dumps. Do something nice for yourself every day and do something nice for someone else. Did you know that it has been scientifically proven that an act of service can help with depression? Getting involved in service work can boost your mental health. Service work takes our mind off our own problems, and sometimes it shows us that we've got it better than we remember. Service work just makes you feel good, and I want you to be happy. Stay safe, my friends, and be kind to each other, and I will see you next time on Dark Hearts with Stacy Lee. Bye.